When we imagine falling from a great height, the human perspective dominates. Broken bones, catastrophic injuries, and almost certain death. But gravity does not treat every creature equally. The physics of falling is not just about distance. It's about size, weight, and the way bodies interact with air. To begin, let's start at the very bottom of the scale, insects and tiny creatures, because for them, falling from high places is a completely different experience than it is for us. Take an ant, for example. Drop a human from the top of a 50-story building and the outcome is grim. The human body, weighing between 50 and 100 kilograms, accelerates under gravity until it reaches terminal velocity, the speed where air resistance balances the pull of gravity. For humans, terminal velocity is about 200 kilometers per hour, roughly 120 miles per hour when falling belly first. Hitting the ground at that speed is fatal. An ant, by contrast, weighs only a few milligrams. Its small mass and relatively large surface area mean air resistance acts like a cushion. Instead of accelerating to hundreds of kilometers per hour, the ant drifts gently like a leaf in the wind. When it lands, the force is negligible. The ant simply gets up and continues on its way unharmed. This principle applies to most small insects, flies, beetles, spiders, even small grasshoppers. Their survival rate from high falls is nearly 100%. The physics is simple. The ratio of surface area to volume increases as size decreases. That means the smaller you are, the more effectively air slows your fall. This is why a fly buzzing near your ceiling could drop straight to the floor and take off again without a scratch. It's also why spiders can drop on silk threads, release themselves, and survive the landing every time. But what about slightly larger arthropods like crickets or mantises? They still benefit from this physics, but their larger size gives them a bit more momentum. Some species have evolved behavioral adaptations to cope. Grasshoppers spread their legs, increasing drag. Mantis species sometimes glide slightly, using their wings to slow descent. Even if they don't glide, their exoskeletons act like natural armor, dispersing impact forces across tough plates of chitin. The result, even from significant heights, most land on their feet, shaken but alive. This phenomenon has been nicknamed the ant paradox. To an ant, a fall from the top of a tree or even a skyscraper is not life-threatening. To us, the same fall is certain death. The difference comes down to scale and physics. Air is thick compared to their size, almost like syrup. To an insect, falling through air is closer to a human trying to swim through molasses. It slows them down so effectively that impacts are harmless. Tiny mammals like shrews or small lizards share some of these advantages, though not to the same extent. A shrew, weighing just a few grams, has bones so light and flexible that they bend instead of breaking. If one were dropped from a tree, it would likely bounce or roll away unharmed. Small frogs and geckos do even better. Their flexible skeletons and lightweight frames make them almost shockproof at moderate heights. Some frogs even use webbed feet like parachutes, increasing drag and slowing their fall. The smallest birds, hummingbirds, sparrows, rarely fall uncontrollably, but if they did, their tiny mass and wing reflexes would protect them. Even stunned, they often flutter instinctively, breaking their fall before impact. In summary, among the tiniest creatures, falling is not a death sentence. In fact, it barely registers as a danger at all. For insects, amphibians, and tiny mammals, survival is virtually guaranteed. Physics shields them. Their lightweight, large surface area ratios, and flexible skeletons mean gravity simply doesn't hit them as hard. In their world, falling is just another way of getting from one place to another. But as we move up the scale, things change. Add a few hundred grams, then a few kilograms, and the story begins to shift. Air resistance no longer slows the body enough to make landing safe. Bones become more brittle under higher forces, and internal organs slam against ribcages with dangerous momentum. In the next section, we'll look at small mammals like mice, squirrels, and cats, creatures that live closer to our size, but still show surprising survival strategies when they fall from great heights. As we climb the ladder of body size, physics begins to shift against survival. Small mammals are heavier than insects, but still light enough to resist some of gravity's cruelty. The physics principle here is simple. The force of impact is proportional to mass, but the ability of air to slow you down does not increase at the same rate. In other words, once animals weigh more than a few hundred grams, terminal velocity rises quickly and the consequences of a fall become harsher. Yet some species still surprise us with their resilience. Let's begin with mice. A mouse weighs about 20 grams, a feather compared to our average 70 kilograms. Drop one from a great height, and while it accelerates faster than an insect, its terminal velocity is still relatively low, around 10 meters per second. That's about 36 kilometers per hour, comparable to a bicycle crash. Painful, yes, but survivable for such a small, soft-bodied creature. In fact, experiments and anecdotal reports suggest that mice can fall from many meters and survive with minimal injury. Their bodies are flexible, and their small mass means their bones and organs do not experience the catastrophic forces larger creatures endure. Now take a squirrel. These agile rodents evolved in trees where falling is a constant risk. Their bushy tails are not just for balance. They also act as parachutes, spreading surface area and slowing descent. A falling squirrel instinctively extends its limbs, creating a gliding posture that maximizes drag. Observers have reported squirrels surviving falls from dozens of meters, scampering away after hitting the ground. Their flexible joints, low body mass, around 500 grams, and natural gliding behavior give them extraordinary protection. In many ways, squirrels are the poster children of small mammal fall survival. The most famous fall survivor, however, is the cat. Cats possess the righting reflex, a biological marvel that activates the moment they begin to fall. In less than a second, a cat twists its body midair, aligning its spine and legs so that it lands on its feet. But the reflex is only part of the story. Cats also spread their legs and arch their backs, increasing drag and slowing descent. Their terminal velocity is about 60 miles per hour, 97 km/h, roughly half that of a human. Their flexible skeletons and thick, muscular legs absorb impact far more effectively than ours. Remarkably, veterinary studies of cats that fell from New York skyscrapers found survival rates as high as 90%, even from heights of 20 stories. In fact, paradoxically, cats falling from higher floors often fared better than those from lower floors. This is because after a certain distance, cats reach terminal velocity, relax their bodies, and spread out more like a parachute. Lower falls don't give them enough time to reach the safer posture. But cats are not invincible. Land them on hard surfaces like concrete from extreme heights, and injuries are inevitable. Fractures, lung trauma, and internal bleeding occur frequently. Survival depends heavily on the height, the landing surface, and the health of the individual animal. Still, compared to almost any other mammal of its size, the cat is extraordinarily well adapted to falls. Other small mammals are less fortunate. Rabbits, for instance, are built for speed and agility on the ground, not for falling. Their delicate spines and thin bones make them vulnerable to fractures from relatively small drops. A rabbit falling from a second-story window often suffers fatal spinal injuries. Small dogs, similarly, are not built for aerial acrobatics. While a chihuahua or a dachshund might weigh only a few kilograms, their rigid skeletons and lack of righting reflex mean that a fall from even moderate heights can be fatal. Interestingly, animals that evolved in arboreal environments, like monkeys, lemurs, and possums, tend to do much better. These species have flexible skeletons, prehensile limbs, and often tails that help stabilize them midair. Some, like flying squirrels and colugos, even evolved membranes of skin between their limbs, turning them into natural gliders. These animals don't just survive falls. They often turn them into controlled flights, steering toward tree trunks or branches to break the fall. For them, gravity is less a threat than a tool. But for animals that evolved mainly on flat ground, falls are catastrophic. A goat might navigate rocky cliffs with agility, but if it slips and tumbles dozens of meters, its solid, heavy frame is poorly equipped to absorb the shock. Sheep and pigs suffer similar fates. Their bulk works against them. Unlike squirrels or cats, they lack the balance, flexibility, or instincts to mitigate the impact. The result is almost always fatal injuries. In the range of small to medium animals, then, survival is a game of adaptation. Those evolved for tree life, squirrels, monkeys, cats, possess tools like tails, flexible joints, or righting reflexes that give them remarkable resilience. Those that did not, rabbits, dogs, goats, face grim odds. Size helps, but adaptation helps more. The boundary between survival and death is written not just in kilograms, but in evolutionary history. As we continue to scale up, these advantages vanish. Once we move into animals weighing hundreds of kilograms, survival from falls becomes nearly impossible. In the next section, we'll examine what happens to large land animals, horses, cattle, giraffes, elephants, when gravity shows no mercy. As we move into the realm of large land animals, the physics of falling turns brutal. Size becomes a liability. For creatures weighing hundreds or thousands of kilograms, gravity is merciless, terminal velocities climb, and the impact forces exceed what bone, muscle, and internal organs can endure. Unlike insects or small mammals, these giants cannot rely on air resistance or agility to save them. A short fall may break bones. A tall one almost always guarantees death. Let's begin with horses. A typical horse weighs around 500 kilograms. With such mass, its terminal velocity in free fall is close to that of a human, around 200 kilometers per hour, but the consequences are far worse. The horse's long, rigid legs are not designed for absorbing vertical shocks. Even a fall of just a few meters can shatter bones, particularly in the delicate legs. Equestrian accidents confirm this. Horses that stumble and fall while jumping obstacles as low as 2 meters often suffer broken legs so severe they cannot recover. A fall from any significant height, tens of meters, would be instantly fatal. Cattle, cows, and bulls fare no better. Their heavy, stocky frames are poorly adapted to falls. A cow weighs about 600 kilograms on average, with fragile legs compared to its mass. Stories of cows falling from cliffs show the tragic outcome: death almost every time. The combination of massive weight, high terminal velocity, and weak limb structures makes cattle among the least fall-resistant animals on Earth. The case of the giraffe is particularly dramatic. With their extraordinary height, up to 5.5 meters, and elongated necks, giraffes are already vulnerable to falls even on flat ground. Calves sometimes die from birth injuries because the drop from their mother's womb is nearly 2 meters. Adult giraffes that stumble often break their legs or necks. From any significant height, survival is impossible. The giraffe size and build, designed for reaching high foliage, are exact opposites of what is needed for fall survival. A long neck becomes a deadly lever, magnifying forces at impact and causing instant trauma. Then come the rhinoceroses, weighing between 1,000 and 2,500 kilograms. Their bodies are tanks of muscle and armor like skin, but even this cannot withstand the physics of falling. A rhino's heavy build creates immense impact forces. Its short, thick legs cannot distribute the shock. A fall of even a few meters risks catastrophic injury. Drop a rhino from a tall building, and there is no chance of survival. Bones, organs, and tissues would rupture on impact. Finally, the largest land animals of all, elephants. An adult African elephant can weigh up to 6,000 kilograms. This size is a blessing in daily life, deterring predators and allowing them to reshape landscapes. But when it comes to falling, it is a curse. An elephant's bulk makes it one of the most fragile animals in the context of gravity. Even a stumble down a steep slope can break bones. Reports from the wild confirm that elephants falling into pits or ravines often suffer fatal injuries. The physics is stark. The force of impact is proportional to mass times velocity. With so much mass, even at modest velocities, the energy is enormous, more than enough to crush bones and organs. A fall from a building or a cliff, certain death every time. It is worth pausing here to reflect on evolution. Why did these animals never evolve mechanisms to survive falls? The answer is simple: they did not need to. Horses, cows, giraffes, rhinos, and elephants all evolved in environments where falls from great heights are rare. They live on plains, grasslands, and forests where gravity's worst dangers come not from cliffs but from predators, disease, and hunger. Evolution only shapes what is necessary. A squirrel must survive falling because life in trees demands it. An elephant never needed such adaptations, so nature never gave them. And that's what it would look like if every animal fell from a great height. A picture that's both scientific and chilling, showing adaptive diversity in nature. If you find this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the channel. Which species do you think would survive best if dropped from a great height? Leave a comment. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next What If episodes.